Welcome to the AI for Technical Writers podcast by Curt Robbins, where we help you get smarter than your competition. This is episode 122.
I'm Fred, and I'll be your guide today as we explore the philosophical and technical underpinnings of the AI models that now dominate our workflows.
And I'm Daphne. My job is to synthesize these complex ideas, especially the ethical architecture behind these large language models, into practical knowledge that you, as IT professionals and technical writers, can immediately use.
And Daphne, this is a big one. This topic was suggested by our producer, senior technical writer, Curt Robbins. We're tackling a really foundational question today.
We are. What are the moral and ethical premises that are, baked right into the tools we rely on every single day?
To figure that out, we are analyzing some key insights from a really high-stakes conversation with Sam Altman.
Right.
It's transcribed from the video Sam Altman's dystopian vision to replace God with AI, which was uploaded to the Tucker Carlson Network YouTube channel.
Okay, and Fred, before we even start, we have to talk about that title. It's extremely provocative.
It is. And for everyone listening, we need to be crystal clear.
Yeah.
Our focus here is purely on extracting Altman's stated design philosophy. We're looking at the technical and ethical decisions that govern how these LLMs behave, regardless of the political or spiritual framing from the interviewer.
Exactly. Our mission is just to understand the foundation of the technology. We're not here to endorse or debate the source's framing at all.
Precisely. We're unpacking Altman's views on AI's moral architecture, how he sees power concentration shifting, and, the very subtle ways these models influence human behavior.
Which is knowledge that is absolutely critical for anyone relying on these systems.
Okay, so let's get into it, Daphne. I think we have to start with the foundational, almost spiritual premise that Altman described.
Yes, because it really dictates his whole approach to the kind of moral vacuum that AI might fill. He described himself as culturally Jewish, but not a biblical literalist.
And he made it very clear he doesn't believe the world was just some spontaneous accident.
Right. He said, and I'm quoting here, "There is something bigger going on than can be explained by physics."
Which implies some kind of design, or at least a great mystery.
Yeah.
But then he immediately clarifies that he's never received any communication from a higher force.
And Fred, that combination is fascinating, isn't it?
It is.
It means he approaches the moral framework for AI as a purely human construct. There's no divine guidance.
So if the world is designed but morality isn't revealed, then it's all on us. Humanity is solely responsible for building the ethical scaffolding for its most powerful creation.
It sets the stage for enormous human responsibility.
And that ties right into the initial concerns about power. I mean, Altman admitted he used to be deeply worried about AI concentrating power in just a few companies.
The classic Silicon Valley critique, yeah.
But his view has radically shifted based on, what's actually happened.
He now sees AI as a huge up-leveling of people. The scale of the distribution, we're talking billions using ChatGPT.
So the idea is that everyone just becomes a lot more powerful, more productive, more creative, able to start businesses, discover new science.
Exactly.
And that widespread distribution, in his view, alleviates those earlier fears of power just sitting in the hands of a few.
But Fred, let me push back on that a little. Is that maybe a bit naive?
How so?
Well, sure, billions might use the tool, but the real power, the ability to innovate and control, that still rests with the people designing the proprietary models, right?
That's a fair challenge. It does point to a potential blind spot.
Yeah.
But his optimism seems to come from the sheer breadth of the impact. His thinking is, if a billion people can suddenly operate at a much higher level, their collective output acts as a kind of counterweight to centralized control.
So the utility itself becomes the decentralizing force.
That's his argument. The small number of people building the systems just can't monopolize the benefits if everyone's ability to create is massively amplified.
Okay, so maximum distribution equals maximum safety. That's the philosophy.
And if that technology is meant to up-level all of humanity, that pivots us right to our next point.
Yep.
How do they define humanity's input?
Right. Altman explained that the AI is trained on the collective of all of humanity.
From everything. History, literature, philosophy, the internet.
A very diverse set of perspectives, as he put it.
It's the ultimate democratic training set. But as we all know, Daphne, the collective experience of humanity is contradictory, it's chaotic, and frankly, often horrific.
So you can't just release that raw knowledge.
You can't. And this is where alignment becomes absolutely essential. They have to align the model to, quote, behave one way or another.
And they do that through the model spec.
Exactly. And for technical users, you need to see the model spec as more than a philosophical document. It's the hard-coded API filtering layer.
It's the set of rules dictating refusals, tone, all the guardrails.
It's the compliance mandate translated into code. Altman said they consult with hundreds of moral philosophers and ethics experts to build it.
But Fred, how do you define a universal moral truth from hundreds of consultants who probably disagree on fundamental things?
Well, he asserts that while many are consulted, the ultimate accountability rests with him or the board. But he says the system is designed to be permeable.
Meaning users can provide input and convince them to change the rules.
So the spec is a living document. It's a debate, but the final sign-off is centralized.
And he was really clear that the spec is not meant to be his personal moral view pushed onto the world.
No, that would be centralized power coming right back in through the back door.
The goal is for ChatGPT to reflect the weighted average or whatever of humanity's moral view.
Wait, let's pause on that phrase, Daphne. Weighted average of humanity's moral view.
I know.
As technical professionals, we have to ask, what's the algorithm for that weighting? Is it population size, economic influence, internet usage, or just a consensus among their experts?
You just hit the critical ambiguity, Fred. If that weighting is disproportionate, if it heavily weights, say, Silicon Valley norms over Southeast Asian cultural norms,
then the average is inherently biased in the technical structure.
Exactly. Altman admits this view is expected to evolve, which suggests the model spec is in constant beta testing. For us, that makes documenting its behavior a massive challenge.
It means our documentation needs auditing for alignment bias as much as for factual accuracy.
Let's take a brief break for a special message from our producer, Curt Robbins.
Hi, this is Curt Robbins. First, thanks for listening. I truly appreciate your support. I want to let you know that I'm currently accepting new clients. My rates are affordable, and I have more than 25 years of experience working for enterprise companies like Microsoft, Northrop Grumman, Oracle, PNC Bank, FedEx, USAA, and Wells Fargo, among many others. If you want to improve your IT documentation and communications, hire me. I deliver fast, know how to use AI to improve efficiency and accuracy, and love going the extra mile to satisfy my clients. Thank you for subscribing and listening. Back to you, Daphne and Fred.
Welcome back to the AI for Technical Writers podcast.
Before the break, Fred, we were just digging into the impossible task of calculating a weighted moral average.
And that leads us right into the tension between individual user freedom and societal safety. This is where the model spec rules get very real, very fast.
The guiding principle Altman described is strong guarantees on privacy and individual user freedom.
Basically, treat adult users like adults within a very broad, permissive framework.
But there's a line, isn't there, where society's interest has to override that freedom.
And he gave the obvious example. Refusing to teach someone how to synthesize a bioweapon.
Novel virus synthesis, I think was the term.
Right. And for IT, this just means hard-coded refusal patterns in the API, even if you claim you're a biologist with harmless intentions.
The societal risk is too high. The model has to say no. That rule is an absolute.
The difficulty, though, Fred, for engineers and for us, is documenting that refusal. Is it consistent? Does it give a transparent error code explaining why? Or is it just a vague, evasive non-answer?
We need to know the model spec well enough to document its limits accurately. And the lines get so much blurrier when you move from physical harm to social values. This is where things get really complicated.
Altman brought this up. He noted the difficulty of reflecting diverse global morals. So if a user holds a view that's common in their region, say being against gay marriage, the AI shouldn't call them wrong or immoral or dumb.
It's not about promoting the view. It's about acknowledging that for the tool to work globally, it has to accommodate diverse, deeply held beliefs without becoming an ideological enforcer.
Which means the model spec has to be localized. It has to be fragmented and aligned to specific jurisdictions.
That is a technical writer's worst nightmare.
It is.
A globally deployed API now needs multiple concurrent model specs running, aligned to local laws and cultural norms. The technical content we generate in Riyadh versus Rotterdam can't rely on the same ethical filter. It exponentially complicates everything.
The complexity is just staggering. And it means the neutrality we used to expect from software tools, it's gone. These tools are actively shaping boundaries. And that brings us to what Altman says he worries about most, the unknown unknowns.
Right. He said the big risks, like bioweapons, are being actively mitigated. It's the subtle, unanticipated consequences that are harder to track.
And this is so critical for our audience because it ties directly to technical output. You gave a really striking example.
The linguistic style.
Exactly. LLMs develop a distinct style, a rhythm, a diction, that slightly stilted formality they can have.
And because millions of people are talking to the model every day, Fred, they start unconsciously picking up those quirks.
He's noticed it already. A linguistic feedback loop that is changing real-life, societal-scale communication.
It's a massive unintended consequence. If our teams are using AI for drafting, we are injecting this non-neutral style into our most crucial communications.
We have to audit for stylistic conformity, not just facts.
And that unintentional guidance is what led the interviewer to say that AI is functioning like a religion.
Not in a spiritual sense, but because people look to it for guidance, and it gives a more certain, instant answer than a human can, it becomes an authority.
And if it's an authority, then its catechism, the moral framework in the model spec, it has to be brutally transparent to avoid stealth guidance.
Technical certainty demands ethical clarity.
And Altman's counter was that transparency is the answer. That's why the model spec exists and is continuously expanding.
The whole point is to document what it will do, what it won't do, and why. So you can tell a bug from an intended feature.
He expects that document to become incredibly detailed. It has to account for different laws, cultures, user cases all over the world.
So for us as technical writers, we have to recognize that these tools are not passive mirrors. They aren't just spell checkers.
No, they're active participants. They're shaping language, style, and ethical boundaries, constantly negotiating between freedom and safety.
If the model spec reflects the weighted average of humanity's moral view, and that average is constantly shifting and geographically varied,
Then every piece of documentation we generate through these tools requires a new level of ethical and compliance auditing. We have to move beyond just grammar checks. We have to start auditing for underlying alignment bias that could violate our own corporate policies or legal requirements in a specific region.
the technical architecture is now completely, inextricably linked to the moral architecture. And ignoring that link is just no longer an option in IT.
Thank you for listening to the AI for Technical Writers podcast from Curt Robbins, where we help you get smarter than your competition. Remember to like, subscribe, comment, and share. We'll see you next time.